No, I got it. Cool. All right, thank you so much. Next up, we'll go through our agenda really quickly. Like I said, we've got a fun, busy, loaded, chock full of a learning time today. So we'll do our orientation, which we're doing now. We'll have some grounding here in a bit from Chandra Green. We'll be talking through how to test some of our little bets that we've created with our very own Seth Soigling. We'll have a cohort reflection panel where we'll hear from some of our cohort 1 participants. We'll reflect on our pitches with our very own Jonathan Santos Silva, and then Melissa McCoy, who is our expert data coach, will close us out with the data corner. So that is how we will spend our time today. Just to reorient to our goals, RI will work with organizations and agencies to take the best trauma-informed practices that we have that have worked in other communities for an organization or program like our own and implement these best practices and policies. The goal of the program is also to support organizations and agencies as you guys design best practices for challenges in the organization. And then agencies and organizations will then work together to build a solution for some of those challenges. Next up is our timeline, just to give you a visual of where we are in the program. We are squeaking past the midpoint, which feels great because that means we're making progress and we're pushing forward in the program. Today, we're at convening number 6, which is reflection and improvement. And looking ahead, convening 7 is coming up. We'll see what's working as you test your little bets. And then coming up on convening 8 in October, we'll talk sustainability, how to sustain some of these pilots over time. And then our final celebration in November. So we only have a few more instances together in our convenings, and you guys are doing excellent work. So keep it up. Our learning objectives for today are as follows. Teams will learn of different examples and ways to test little bets. Teams will hear from perspective of panelists to from previous cohorts to learn about their experiences with the little bets. Teams will revisit pitches and update them potentially. And teams will use templates to create a plan for you guys to test your little bets. So again, loaded day today, lots of learning that's going to happen, and we're so excited to have you. So thank you for being here. Up next, we have the illustrious Chandra Green, who is going to ground us today in our time. So take it away, Chandra.
Thank you, Courtney. It's nice to see all of your faces again. I love that timeline. We're chugging along and getting things done and moving through. So I'm excited for all of you. And because we are past the halfway mark, I figured to ground us, I'd like us to do a grounding in kind of why we're here. We want to ground in the idea of what brought us here. What made you do that application? What made you want to be a part of this program, right? So there's going to be 3 questions, right? Because we're here, we're doing the work, you're here, right? 3 prompts. I have learned, I still don't know, and what I hope we can accomplish in the next coming weeks. Courtney's already let us know we have just a few more convenings left, and we're right at the point that we're testing our little bets. What do we want to accomplish? What do we hope to accomplish? We're going to do this as individuals. We're going to give you 2 to 3 minutes to kind of think about it. Courtney's going to play some nice soothing music for you to kind of put your thinking cap on, write these answers out, and then we're going to give you some time in your breakouts as a team to just kind of ground and connect around these 3 prompts, right? We are here, what we've learned, what we still need to learn, and what we hope to accomplish. Any questions? If not, Courtney's going to get that music going. We're going to give you 2 to 3 minutes to kind of write down some of your answers and then get together in the breakout groups. Thanks, Court. I love that. Love that groove. Hopefully that helped you guys get your thinking caps on. So we're going to give you about 10 minutes in your breakouts with your teams so you can share and discuss your answers to these 3 prompts and really ground in why we are all here, why you guys are here as a team, right? And what you're accomplishing and what you still need to learn, right? Let's do it.
I opened the breakout rooms for you guys. So if you'll just select your team and join, you will be able to join your team's breakout.
And the coaches are open, free to join with your teams and discuss if you like. And maybe even a few of us may pop in if that's okay with the teams, just to kind of ground ourselves in the wonderful work that you're doing. And if we can enlighten at all, we can do that as well. See you guys back here in about 10. Where we've come from and where we still have to go. So I hope that was time well spent, and we're going to transition and get this thing started.
Thanks so much, Chandra. Hey, everybody. I'm excited to share with you just a very brief ideas and tools of how you can approach thinking about testing these little bets. And many teams and many of you individually have already been doing these. Just wanted to ground us at the start with a couple helpful tools to really go from this big idea of, we have really good intentions, we have empathy grounded in the interviews we've done with people we serve and with our staff. And now it's that messy middle of how do we go from this big idea into small actionable tests. So the goal is just to give support here on how you can get your ideas into this testing phase. And then hopefully to unlearn and let go of some of our cultural habits around perfection and around analysis paralysis. Big message of this short section for me is just get out of the building, and talking to one person you serve, talking to one staff member is going to go a lot further than kind of infinite meetings where we, from the safety and comfort of the harbor, kind of talk about the ideas. We want to get out into the water, out into the messiness, and then see how our ideas work in the real world. And just the why behind this is really our ability as organizations to make impact is directly related to our ability to test things and fail and learn. Because without that failure, we don't have the understanding and we don't have the insights. And so it's just really embracing more of a learning mindset than a perfection mindset. And really just anytime we do something that doesn't work, it's just a chance to do it again and to start again. And so the goal here of all these little bets and all these tests is learning. And that's the currency we're operating with, but we can't learn without taking action. So we just want to support each team individually as best you can to take action and then get the currency of learning and then plug that into your next little bet. And yeah, I mean, you have already been doing a lot of these tools. So I'm just going to share 5 simple tools with you. But you've already been doing a lot of them, and using these tools will help you inform a bigger pilot. And so the 5 tools I'll share are one-pagers, card sorts, message testing, focus groups, and walk-bys. And so I'll give just a example of each tool from different work that has happened in our community. And so actually the starting point here is this tool of competing one-pagers. So to build the program that we're all participating in right now, after doing empathy interviews, we actually created 2 different one-pagers that proposed 2 very different programs. And then we just went and did 10, 15-minute conversations with people who worked within public agencies. And we would put the one-pagers in front of people and say, which of these would you rather participate in, if at all? And then just get their reactions. And from doing that, I mean, it was quick, it was dirty. Maybe in the span of a week, we talked to 5 people. And the insights from putting these 2 opposite ideas out there and getting quick feedback really helped us quickly get to some of the insights of how we're all doing this program together right now. So the idea with this is to present opposites, put things that are opposing, and that's where you'll get people's reactions and start to see their preferences. The second example is we did some work with a middle school and the county jail around a biofeedback breathing program, a meditation. And the jail really wanted to set up a space to do meditation and do biofeedback. And so we used a tool called card sorts, where instead of rushing to buy all the supplies and equipment, we just literally printed off pictures. So it's just pictures from the internet of different what materials and supplies could look like to decorate this room, was the intention from the sheriff's office. And then we just put it in front of different people currently detained in the jail and current staff members. And they actually sorted. They would put items they most wanted on the right and items they least wanted on the left. And it gave us really quick information. Instead of going out and like buying all these things, gave us really quick info of here's the things we should prioritize. So card sorts are a really good tool to measure preferences and make people, force them to choose, you know, do I want A or B more? And then based on that choice, that helps you design your little bet or design your program. Related to that is the tool called walk-bys. So if you have a specific solution you're trying to test, in this case, it was a meditation app, you can do walk-bys where literally you just go put it in people's hands. It literally could be strangers, but hey, I'm Seth. We're doing this testing of this meditation app. We're asking people for 5 minutes of their time, and in exchange, we give a $5 or $10 gift card as a thank you. And some people will say no, but other people will start using it, and then you just have a series of questions, or you just watch them interact with it, and you see what are they stuck on, what do they like, what do they not like. But again, this idea of instead of kind of us talking about it infinitely, getting out of the building, finding 2 people, 3 people, 5 people where we can just hand them a solution and get their reactions quickly. This next one is going to be interactive. So a quick little live demo. This tool is called message testing. And this example was helping design savings accounts for parents who had newborn babies. And the idea here is that in putting different messages out and seeing how people react to it, you can actually get an understanding of their preferences or demand of what kind of solution they might actually use. So we're going to do a quick poll here. Let me hit the poll button. So you're going to see a message come up. This could be done on Zoom, or you could print out a sheet and you could show it in front of people. But you're going to see a message, and then you're just going to answer 2 questions. You're going to answer like, do you want this? And how helpful would this be to you? So this first message here, and I'll launch the poll, is just an example of what a billboard could look like for a savings account program aimed at parents. So the first question is just, you know, do you want this? And it's meant to be quick, rapid, just get kind of gut reactions from people. And so you can see, let me know if it's not coming through on your screen, but you can see we're kind of all across the board. We got, you know, a 3 interest level all the way to a 10. And where this becomes really helpful, and just the same idea here, I'm going to put up same message, but how helpful would this be to you? So same question, just said a little different way. But why this is so helpful is because it gives us quick data, and you're going to do this for a couple different messages. And as you can see, you know, this is taking 30, 60 seconds. We might take less than 5 minutes overall to look at 3 different messages. And it gives us really helpful data where we can actually compare messages across the differences. So this is the first message we're testing. This is the second one here. So I'll throw we're just asking the same questions. It's almost like rapid fire. And so again, you're trying to put the extremes out. You're trying to you want to put different things in front of people, because how they respond is going to show what they're interested in or what they might demand. So that's how it's kind of looking for message 2. We can kind of see the spread there. And then the very last one here, third message, slightly different. We'll throw another poll up. I love how fast everybody is. So obviously haven't crunched these numbers because we're doing it live, but we now have data on 3 different messages. And when we crunch it, it's going to show us between these 3 in this group of people, if you all were users and you were parents who had newborn babies and we were trying to help, our goal was to get savings accounts set up for the babies. This data would help us really quickly show preferences, demand, what we should focus on in highlighting, what we shouldn't focus on in highlighting. And it's not just messaging, it's not just a marketing thing. It also can give us some insight into people's potential preferences of how they might actually act. So that's the third tool here. And again, doesn't need to be on Zoom. You could handwrite messages and put 2 or 3 in front of people, and you could just put a little quick feedback tool in front of them where it's just asking them to mark their interest level, if they'd call the number, and like how much they like the message. And then the fourth tool here is just kind of the tried and true focus group. So this is a specific example that actually happened at Wilson DSS. They have a goal around staff wellness, and there are these different technologies that exist that helps manage stress. But right now, these technologies are often used by athletes, by our friends like Victor at NASA, the Army, and they're not available in community settings. So it's just a quick focus group. I think about 10 or 15 staff members showed up over their lunch hour. Lunch was provided, and it was just set up like stations. It was literally kind of like a kindergarten classroom, and staff members could try on the device, use it, see how it worked, and then they would just fill out this reaction sheet. So for each time they tried a different technology, they would just circle yes, no, or maybe in terms of if they would use this technology daily to help reduce stress, get quick reactions of what they liked and didn't like, and just measuring how likely they would be to recommend or tell a friend about this. Now, again, there's a gap sometimes between what people say and what they do, but you're just getting quick information, and this then gets us to the next place where we can actually start to assess if they say they'll use it, if we put it in front of them, do they actually use it? Yeah, so that I think it's actually titled example 4, but I think that was the 5th tool. So 5th tool is a focus group. And the template or tool here that we're all going to use to help define our little bet is just this kind of the who, when, how, and where tool. So the what is your solution. That's what your little bet is. So the little bet goes up here, but this is just to help tease out that there are actually a lot of different things you can test within any one idea. You can test who delivers it, who uses it, what time of day they actually use it, how they use it, and where they use it. And then the goal is, after defining that, to go do the test, get the results, and then reflect on it and say, what are we going to do with this information? Do we adapt our test? Do we adopt something new, or do we abandon this and move on to a different little bet? And so just as an example here, like say that you were working on your little bet was, how do we get more people to brush their teeth? There's a lot of different options for who could deliver that solution. And there's a lot of different options of who we're actually targeting with that solution to get people to brush their teeth more. And then what time of day is the little bet actually happening? And then how are they actually using it? Is it text reminders? Is it paper handouts? Is it accountability? And then where? Like, what's the location? And so for you, when we talk about getting clear and making our big ideas smaller, you're just trying to define one column. You're just trying to say, for this little bet, this one test we're going to do, this is how we're currently imagining it. And then go do that test, and then get that data, decide to adapt, adopt, or abandon, and then go on to the next test. And so just the kind of the summary advice here is like, show, don't tell. A lot of these examples focused on showing people stuff, like you're not talking at them as much, you're putting something in front of them and seeing how they react. And then another advice is just shorten your deadline. Like literally when you define your test, how can you go test that today? Like how can you go find one person and get their feedback today? Or how can you find 3 people's feedback by the end of this week? And just start way smaller. Like how can I have one person use this little bit? Or, you know, max 3 to 5 people use this little bit, because going slow here is going to let you get the insights you need to go bigger later. And then lastly, just get support. Ask your team coach to help you figure out how to get to action quickly. Melissa, the data coach, can help define and execute a small test. And Courtney and I can join any team meeting to also help go from kind of an abstract idea to what's the one thing we're testing right now. And very last thing here is just like, we have a core value around valuing community members' time and experiences. So we can give you all gift cards or gifts to give out to users or staff that you actually do little bets with. And so, and anybody who would like physical gift cards, we can send those to you, to your team lead. And if you want ROI to send virtual gift cards, we just need a spreadsheet that says contact info and email. And if you send that to us, we can send it out through our platform to get anyone you work with a thank you for their time. So the goal is really to kind of practice this and go from this quick high level to actually defining your own little bet. A lot of you have already been doing this, you're doing it, but the goal is to make a copy of this. Click that link and make a copy of this template. And then with your team in breakouts, just fill out what is the solution you're currently testing, and then answer these 5 questions. Who's delivering it, using it, when are they doing that, how, and where. And if you need any inspiration or examples, you can pull back to slide 29, where you see this example of what just some of the different options. There's a lot more. But the goal is really just to define the little bit you're already working on and get really clear on those questions. And then, yeah, if you don't have a specific idea to test, then start there and align as a team on what's the one idea we want to test, and then proceed to do this activity. And a lot of teams already have your one idea you want to test. So then really flesh out these 5 questions as a team. And coaches, please help facilitate the combos. If coaches want to make a copy of the template and then screen share in your breakout. Any questions on that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
All the different ways that you showed about testing
Mhm.
those little bets,
Mhm.
did you do all of those in person, and did you do any remotely, and how does it change if you do it remotely?
Yeah, great questions. We have done, I'm looking back on them. Pre-COVID, we did all of them in person, and post-COVID, we've done all of them virtually. And I think what's different or changed is when we're doing virtual, we got to be like more crisp and direct with like instructions, and we almost got to ask for less. Like sometimes when we're in person, we can better make up for like our lack of clarity or a lack of clear instructions. But online, it's almost like we got to pare it down even simpler and do a little bit less. And there's a tool we've used that we can share for doing online card sorts, where you can actually create your cards online and then send people a link, and then they order them around on the screen. And then that's data for you of kind of what people's preferences are. And we'd love to provide support. Like if you know, as a team, you get really clear on these things, but then you're saying, how do I actually do the test? We would love to support to help figure out, you know, which of these tools or other ones could be best to actually like test that little bet that you're working on.
All right, Seth, I'm gonna open breakout rooms. Are we ready to transition? All right, and just one more small logistical note about the instructions. When you make a copy of the template, which I've also dropped in the chat, go ahead and make a copy for your team coaches and go ahead and drop it in the team deliverables folder, which I've also dropped in the chat, just so you'll go ahead and have everything in one spot so you don't have to shuffle around and look for links and templates, and so we can go ahead and have those in one place for easy access. All right, so the rooms are open. We are going to have about 20 minutes in groups. And so you guys enjoy your time together as a team, dig in, and we'll see you back in a bit.
Again, yeah, we're talking about pitches, and it's baseball season. So hopefully whoever you root for is doing better than my Red Sox, so that the analogy isn't so painful for you. We're going in the wrong direction, but with a pitch in this case, hopefully it helps your project move in the right direction, because they're great practice and they provide a lot of value to your team and to your project. And so some of this is going to be review, but we just believe so deeply in the value and the power of pitching that we just want to keep reminding it and settling in it. And so there are many ways pitches benefit us, but there are three that come to mind. First is they help us build buy-in. And so whether that is new team members, community members, prospective users of the service or the project or the bet that you're trying, like get them excited, entice them to want to partner with you. A pitch can do that. The other thing is, I'm sure Seth and Vici have had this experience. They can help you with funding, right? Most philanthropists, most outside entities that may support your work, they may ask for an application, but usually at some level of the game, there's a request for you to present live. And so being able to pitch, being able to take what is surely a big, exciting new idea and bring it down into the pitch level where you can communicate that almost elevator style, that's invaluable to your team and to your project. And lastly, it creates sustainability. And this works in many ways, but the way I look at it most importantly is that many of us come from oral cultures, cultures that have an oral tradition. So the ability to turn your project into a story that you can then tell to others helps that spread, makes it more sustainable, right? The other thing that's not on the slide is that the pitch very much nestles into almost everything Seth was just talking to us about, little bets. The pitch itself can be a little bet, right? So when you pitch, there's feedback on presentation. So you could use your pitch and get feedback from team members, from community members about, was I compelling? Was I clear? Did I get the point across? Would you want to show up for our event, program, whatever? But you can also do a pitch on something that doesn't exist yet as a form of little bet, right? So if you're like pitching for, I don't know, an after school program at your church, you don't have to have the program running. You could prepare the pitch, do this for prospective parents or students, and then say, now give me some feedback. Does that sound like a program you would want to invest your children in? Does this sound like an activity that you would want to participate in or you would want to support? So there's so many values, so much value to the pitch that, like Seth said, I encourage you to pitch and pitch often, not to wait until you have perfected it, right? This is not State of the Union address or like you're running for mayor where you have to mind every P and Q and make sure you address all your different support parts of the community. This is a pitch. If you stumble, bumble, let me start over, catch my breath, or you do it, how was that? What could I do better? So like pitching, let it become your friend. And for those of you that maybe share some of one of my things growing up, I had mega stage fright. I never wanted to be in front of people and do the kind of thing. But the practice, before I knew what pitches were, having to do them or what they were called, I had to start doing presentations in college. And I just did it and did it and did it and did it to the point where now I get to do this with y'all and it doesn't bother me. So that's another value of pitching. You're talking about something you care about, something you're passionate about. It's your heart's work. So practice it, develop that muscle, and it's a set of skills that will carry to you anywhere in any walk of life. And so when you're doing your pitch, remember to keep these things in mind. Have a plan, right? If you have to go shoot from the hip because you run into someone and you weren't expecting it, if you have to do it, do it. But how much better do you think your pitch will be if you prepare? You never know when the opportunity will present itself. So having at least sketched out the high points, like what is the unique value add? What is the ask, right? If it's about funding, what is the benefit to prospective participants, right? Perfect or precise practice makes perfect. I study the martial arts. My jiu-jitsu instructor says it all the time. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, right? So you can't be lazy about it. Get up in front of the mirror, do it. Put your phone on a stand, record it and watch it back. Do it for loved ones who will be gentle, but also do it for people who don't know your project so that they don't just make assumptions and fill in the blanks, right? Like, did I actually get the point across? Do you know what I'm talking about? Make people care. Ask questions as a hook or tell a story. Again, I said, many of us come from traditions where storytelling is valued. So if you can get a little, 30-second story into your 3 or 4 minute pitch, do it. Share the pitch with your audience. By that, I mean, if it feels like that you're just talking at people, that's not a shared experience. But if there's a give and take, you can bring a little humor in, or you can touch on a common set of experiences or pain points that you have in common with the people you're talking to, you're sharing it. And then last but not least, use data to help, not to overwhelm. Again, many of you, this is your heart work. You do this every day. And so the numbers are important to you, but for like a parent or a set of, members of the church or elders in the community that may not be as well versed, if you throw like 15 just important data points at them, they may be flustered and overwhelmed and lose the heart of your presentation. So use the data to enhance, but don't make that the center of everything. And so that's really it on pitches. What I want to leave you with is for like more like almost like a rhetorical question, more of a reflective question. When you've had the opportunity to pitch, whether it's in here, in your team, or with other teams out in the community, what stood out to you about the experience, right? Like, were you nervous? Were you energized? Did you get good feedback? And what did you and your team learn from the practice of pitching, right? Keep those things in mind, because again, I want this to become a part of your practice. I want this to be an ongoing commitment. So whether you're doing this experience with us or long, into the future from now, when you're introducing new work, that pitching becomes a part of your toolkit.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was a wonderful, inspiring presentation about the pitching, and goes right along with what says shared about testing. It's beautiful at this point to be getting this information. So thank you both. Now up next, we have the cohort 1 reflection panel. They're going to share with you some of their experiences, give you some advice, answer some questions. So I turn it over to the panel. But before I do so, I just want to tell you a little bit about them. Here they are across your screen. We have Emily, and she's a design expert. We have Crystal Lancaster from the HOPE program. From cohort 1, we have Kimberly Hollowell. Hi, Kimberly and Crystal and Heidi. I remember all of you guys. I was involved with cohort 1, so I'm so excited to see them here. But Kimberly is from the clerk's office and from the, what's the name of the church again?
Writers Common Ministry.
Yes. And then we have Heidi Austin from Project Aware. So we have these guys. These are your expert panel. They're going to share some experiences with you from cohort 1.
Thank you. All right, I will take it from here. I will allow each of the panelists to introduce themselves a little bit further, and then I'm going to turn it over to you all. So I know that you all have questions assigned to ask the panelists. After each question is asked, I will call on the next team to ask the next question. I also know that you have a note-taking template that you will use to capture notes during this panel. So Courtney, if you could put that in the chat, that would be great, so that teams could use that to move through the panel with our participants. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our three panelists. If you all could do a quick introduction, what do the folks in this room need to know about you? And then we will dive into our questions. I'll start first with Crystal.
Hey, I'm Crystal Lancaster. I'm an English and history teacher for 6th through 12th grade students at the Hope Alternative Program. So.
Thank you. And Kimberly?
I am Kimberly Harrell. I am retired clerk, assistant clerk from the Edgecombe County Clerk of Superior Court. And I am also a member of the Greater Common Ministry Church.
Wonderful. And Heidi?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Heidi Austin. I work with a school mental health project at Department of Public Instruction called Project Aware. And 20 years ago, I started my career in education teaching kindergarten in Warren County.
We are so excited to have you all. A virtual panel is a little bit tricky because unlike in person, when we can see when the other person's about to start talking, virtually, we end up talking over each other. So what we're going to do is for the questions that are asked, I think it'd be great if we could go in this order and then we'll just reverse the order each time. So we'll go Crystal, Kimberly, Heidi, and then Heidi, Kimberly, Crystal. If you have nothing to add, just say nothing to add or same as the other participants. I just don't want to miss anybody with the trickiness that comes with virtual voices going over each other. Does that sound good to y'all?
Sounds great.
That sounds
Thank-
good. Emily, can I ask Seth or Courtney, can we stop sharing screen and go to big screen so we can see each other? Yeah, awesome.
Great. And I think you can also pin the panelists' videos, which will make sure that they are on the top screen here so everyone can view. And with that, I will turn it over to ECC for our first question.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. The first question is, please tell us briefly about your experience with Little Bets in the cohort 1, and what concept did you want to test, and how did you shrink it to test it?
So I guess it's my turn. I was actually a little bit afraid to get this question, so it's kind of ironic. So the reason for that was because I think my brain a lot of times works backwards. So I saw the problem first and looked at the resources that were available and then kind of worked backwards. So I don't know that I'm necessarily the best person to answer that, but I knew that as a Hope program staff member, a lot of times we felt like we did not have a voice. In a way, felt like we kind of existed in this black hole, and our students as well. And so when it came time to come up with, a little bet, I found out that Jenny Stratton worked with ROI and found out that she was this incredible photographer, and I have a love for photography. And that just inspired me. We have this amazing chance to have this lady who is an incredible photographer train our students. And so for us, I think it was about finding your passion and the resources that are available and then working backwards. So that was really it. It's how do we as staff members and students find our voice when I think for a long time we went unrecognized. So it wasn't necessarily that we tested anything. It was, this is a problem. How do we take the resources that are available to address the issue? And I think the thing to remember is that's okay. So, and that was one of the things I remember having a meeting with Seth. My brain does not work that way. My brain does not work in these micro things. So I think there might be some people who are struggling, they're go, oh my gosh, I have to do this, like this test. And I think sometimes it's okay to not be the person who operates that way. It might be okay to see the problem and, come up with a way to address the problem without taking it to such a micro level. And this is the thing that I would say, ROI is staffed incredibly. So definitely, I would say all of the coaches, like Heidi was absolutely amazing. And so all of the people who work for ROI can be the people who can come alongside you and help you figure out ways to do those tests when maybe, your brain doesn't operate that way.
Wonderful. Kimberly, do you have anything to add?
I was going to say that I'm pretty much like she is, that we were trying to get the solution. we came up with a solution quicker. And our coach, Chuck Price, who is on here today, hey Chuck, he kept telling us, okay, well, this is the solution. What do we need to do to get there? We don't want the solution right off. So yes, I can understand how she feels about, how your brain works and stuff like that. So yes.
Wonderful. And Heidi, anything else to add to this great conversation?
Yeah, just from the coach perspective, Hope was trying to do a whole cultural shift. They were trying to change the way that students were seen who are in alternative learning programs, which to me as a coach was this great, huge goal, very ambitious. And so they did 15 different empathy interviews. They did a brainstorming session with over 40 different community partners. And that's really how they came up with their design challenges. And just to kind of give you a quick recap, they did 5 little bets. So they implemented morning meetings, which allowed students to do some mindfulness and to practice some social emotional learning skills. They created a job training program with a community partner. They are piloting an on-site mental health consultant. They've worked through Medicaid cost recovery issues to continue to sustain that position. And then the project that Crystal just referenced about the photo voice. So they did quite a few projects. And I specifically do remember Crystal saying, my brain doesn't work this way. And ROI had these great tools and templates. My team didn't really use them, but they got the work done.
Thank you all. Eastern Star, you are up with our next question.
Oh, Emily, really quick, sorry to push in. We had a question in the chat. Victor asked, were those little bets you guys mentioned for Hope consecutive? I think that's what he meant, right? Right, Victor?
Yes.
Yeah, do you want me to address that, Heidi? Yeah, I think, within the course of the brainstorming, we just saw the issues that were there. I wouldn't say they were consecutive necessarily. It was just looking at our program as a whole and seeing what the issues were and then just addressing those. So I would say they happen laterally, if there's like an academic term to look for. And I guess that's another thing that I would say. I really want to encourage people, don't feel like you have to fit in this box or this formula to reach these goals, because we're all very different. So don't feel like you have to do things consecutively. If you see there's a problem here, problem there, even if they might not feel like they matter, there's systematic improvements that happen, small increments at a time. So that would be the thing that I would encourage people with.
Thank you all. Victor, thank you for your question. As you all have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. This is your panel. So if you have them, please add them in the chat. All right, Eastern Star, what is our second question?
Hi, everyone. What is the key to success with Little Bets in this program?
Do you want to go for that, Heidi?
Yeah, we're working backwards on this one.
Okay.
I would say probably avoid planning your little bet to death. Definitely the pilots don't have to be big. Start small, learn and grow. The Medicaid cost recovery piece, we're still working on that. That's still in motion. We're still working on that one. As Crystal said, experts are here. Jenny, who is an ROI consultant, served as the photo voice facilitator. So tap into the experts that you have. I'm not a Medicaid expert, but I know the one at DPI. So I was able to plug that person in. Use your connections. Be open to opportunities. Don't be able to fail. But if you fail, fail fast and keep moving.
And I would just encourage people to operate within your passions. If there's something that you love and is very important to you, as an educator, that's what they say, even if students have no love for history, but they see how passionate you are about it, it hits home with them, so if you have an opportunity to take something that you truly love and are passionate about and use that to help other people, I would strongly encourage you to do that. Because you're just going to be so much happier than, if it's not something that you really believe in. So.
Yeah, and I would say that I think that you don't need to overthink it or think it's going to be perfect. It is not going to be perfect. There's always going to be some concept that can be added to it, or there's something that can be taken away. But for you to go in and think, hey, this little bit has got to be just right, you're still building on it. We're still building on that little bit. So, you know, never overthink it, and never think it's going to be perfect, because it's a stepping stone. You just keep building and you keep moving.
I love that advice from you all. I think that's a really hard concept to grasp. So hearing it hopefully repeatedly from you all will help participants here to really hear it. It's hard to not do things perfectly and to just let the version that we have be the version that we test and learn from. Any questions about the keys to success before we move on to our next big question? I'll watch the chat for a few seconds here. All right, if you are typing, I will get to your question afterwards, but please feel free to keep popping questions in the chat. Yeah, that dog is snoring in the background. So sorry if you can hear that. All right, SWEHS, you all are next with our third question.
Yes, thank you. If you all could share something that surprised you while executing Little Bets, that would be great.
Who goes first?
We can do, actually, Kimberly, why don't you go first? You haven't gone first yet.
So what was something that surprised us about our little bet was that we weren't going to pursue that little bet. It completely changed in the middle of the process. So it didn't completely change. It just kind of evolved into another path that we wanted to take. So I guess that was a surprising thing, where we thought we were going one way and we ended up moving in another way.
Kimberly, before we move on, will you tell us more about that? What was that process like, and how did you know that it was time to move in a different direction?
So one of the things that we were talking about when we first started the Little Bets was we spoke with some offenders or people who had come out of prison, and we were thinking that we were going to start by helping them transition back into society. So we talked to ex-offenders to find out exactly what it is that we wanted to do. But then we moved forward and we felt like we needed to move towards prison ministry. And actually, instead of waiting for them to come out, was to go in and minister to them 6 or 7 months beforehand, so that they could be prepared, because of the fact that in the time that a person is in prison, they may not see their, I guess, whatever you call it, their counselor or whoever it is that's taking care of them, but once every 6 months. So they need to have a plan to be able to come back home, but they also need to have the mental and the support to be able to prepare themselves for coming out of a closed environment back into the society, where you don't want to go back and create that recidivism.
Wonderful, thank you.
And I'll just hop in really quickly here about like what surprised me. I'll be straight up, the entire thing surprised me.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm just gonna be real with y'all. I literally did not, I had this idea, I put it forth. Heidi did 99.5% of the paperwork for it. So I'm gonna keep like saying thank you, Heidi. But I just didn't even think it was gonna get funded. I mean, just to be honest with you, I was like, there is no way they're gonna fund this, because it was a nice chunk of change. And then it got funded, and then I was like, this is going to be so much work. And then Jenny just made things smooth, and the kids loved her, and then it's just turned out to be this great success. So the entire thing to me has been just this one big incredible surprise. And I think that is so attainable for everybody, for sure.
And I'll say something that surprised me. If you look at the definition of an alternative learning program, it is an environment that's supposed to help students overcome challenges that put them at risk. And what surprised me is that students were arriving at Hope without any kind of plan. So it kind of highlighted other system issues. How on earth does a student arrive to an alternative learning program without a plan? And so worked with the state school nursing consultant to investigate behavior intervention plans. They call them BIPs, and having that as part of the enrollment packet for Hope. So it just highlighted some other system problems.
Thank you all. What I'm hearing is dream big, test small. So have these big, bold ideas, find a way to test them on a small scale, be willing to iterate, but don't let the small tests deter you from big ideas. UC PC, you are up next with our fourth question.
So beyond the support that ROI provided at this stage, how did you use experts you had access to move forward?
I'll go, Kimberly. Yeah, so I think with ROI, there were several ideas that we had. For example, we knew that we really needed access to mental health counseling for our students. What a lot of people don't realize, when our students come to our program, historically, they have been shut off from all resources. They have no guidance counselor that's available to them. And when you have students that are just at much higher risk demographics, my supervisor, Mr. Williams, saw the need that was there. And then, I just remember being like, well, that's awesome. Yes, we need a counselor, but how do we maintain having this counselor every year? And so like the big challenge was, how do we make this sustainable? And that is not something that we had any idea how to do. So it got, tossed up to Heidi and Seth, and they're the ones who made the connections. So I think that's the big thing is, even though we might not have the experience or the knowledge, having that willingness just to throw stuff out there and let them do what they do, I'm just going to keep reiterating, the people who work with ROI are amazing and they truly believe in what they do. And I really feel like whatever idea you come up with, they are going to go above and beyond to help figure out, okay, here's this thing we want to do, but they're going to be the ones to bridge the gap for sure.
And I'll follow up on that. I will say Paul from CoEffect, who's another ROI consultant, very important for the data piece, being able to go to the local Board of Education and show the data about how these projects have impacted Hope students. Would also say Hope had the opportunity to partner with an entity that's known as AMCHIP, the Association of Maternal and Child Health Programs, has secured another $20,000 to continue their work and also get connected to a team of mental health experts. So that's some other content experts to help move forward. You just heard Jonathan talk about the importance of the pitch. Corey Williams is an expert when he talks about the importance of youth, the impact of hope. He's been able to spread that message. There's been 2 articles, one in Ed NC and one in Health NC Health Now, which has helped spread this message, and he's gotten contact from other districts who are interested. So utilize the contacts and the resources to help spread the message.
I don't have anything to add to that.
They nailed it.
Except for, ROI. Again, I will reiterate too about ROI being such a big help. The chief was wonderful in saying, well, maybe you ought to think about this, or maybe you ought to think about this. So she got you thinking and going outside of the box.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is we have not been abandoned by ROI. So
right.
I want you to, because you just don't know going into it, once the program is over, I mean, they are still in very, very, very close contact with our program, still very supportive of our program. And I had no idea that was going to be the way that things were. So whatever you end up doing, I don't foresee anything changing, but they will continue to come alongside you and help you. So.
Yes.
Thank you all. I'll keep monitoring the chat for questions as they come here. For now, I'm seeing a lot of shout outs and a lot of summary. Remember to keep taking notes in your templates as we hear from our panelists. Wilson DSS, do you have one more question for our participants?
Yes, thank you. What final words of advice do you all have for our cohort as we execute our little bets?
Do you want to go for that, Kimberly?
I was going to say, first of all, go in expecting what you want to expect, but don't be disappointed if it doesn't work out that way, because we've always been a firm believer that when one door closes, another one will open.
Mhm.
And it's, again, you got to be flexible, you got to be willing to change, you got to be willing to listen to what your audience or what your little bet is about. I mean, you can't go in and say, I can use us as an example. We could not talk to those ex-offenders or clients of ours and expect our answers to be the same that their answers were. It's being willing to listen, open to whatever it is that you need to go and the avenue that you need to follow. It's all about being flexible to me.
I think the thing that I would say, and this kind of goes back, Jonathan used a term that I thought was amazing. He called it heart work. I am not, he talks about the pitch. I'm horrible at it. I'll just be straight up with you. I'm not a well-spoken person. I get nervous in front of people, and I don't say things necessarily in the most eloquent way, but I've had an experience even last week where I was talking to somebody and I was getting chill bumps and I was tearing up a little bit because I truly believe in what I'm doing. And I think having that true, just like heartfelt, it comes from your soul, love for what you're doing can overcome, maybe a lack of skills or a lack of the ability to pitch perfectly, even though, like he said, the more you do it, the better you get. But that's why I would just say, and whatever, those of you who are still trying to figure out what you do, find what you love maybe, and then work backwards to figure out how to incorporate that into whatever it is that you're doing. So
Crystal has greatly undersold herself to you guys, but she has nailed this on the head with passion. Passion is going to fuel your creativity, your confidence, and really your determination to succeed. I call hope like the story of the bumblebee. Scientifically, the bumblebee is not supposed to be able to fly because its body is too heavy for its wings, but it believes it can fly, so it does. So that's kind of like, to me, the story of hope and the story of the little bets. You're going to get there.
Y'all gonna make it. Don't worry about it. You gonna make it.
That's right. You'd be surprised at how quickly it does come together.
Wonderful. Well, I could not think of a better way to end our panel. So with that, I'm going to extend our sincerest thank you to our panelists here with us today. Please feel free to keep putting questions in the chat. Panelists, if you see them, feel free to answer them in the chat. But with that, I'll turn it back over.
Okay, I want to thank our panelists again. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences and your passion and your advice. And next up, we're going to have our data coach. Melissa's going to come up and give us some information, some good stuff. You're up next, Melissa.
Thanks, Chandra. Hello, everybody. I am here today to, can we go back one more second so they're not distracted with that technical stuff yet? I wanted to just kind of frame what we're going to do today. So I have met with each of you several times at this point, all the teams, and we have talked about key drivers. We have talked about our theory of change, and how we're really going to connect that and ensure that we are going to be able to show results to our stakeholders, to the folks that we've interviewed. And so, so part of that we've done, like we've developed this theory. We have a communication tool that explains what we're doing and why we're doing it. And kind of the complementary piece to that are the run charts that we've talked about. I've given some examples of those. I've set up this spreadsheets that you all will be dumping your data in so that I can create your run chart for your project. And so today I am just going to spend a few minutes explaining a couple rules that will help us understand what we're seeing on those run charts. And so while so far everything that we've talked about has been really around goals and measures, we're shifting a little bit to kind of the next phase, which is really about results and how do we know if we have achieved results, the desired results. Okay, and I'm sorry, but now I'm ready for the next slide. Okay, so this is how a lot of times in the social and the public sector, we see annual reports or we talk about data. We see a lot of pre and post, right? Before we did this thing, the data was at 12. After we did the thing, and then the data was 57. So that's great. And we should throw a pizza party, right? Well, next slide. Data and change is truly temporal in nature. I'm gonna stall a second for it to catch up to the next slide. Right, so if change is temporal, you really need to look at it over time. And this could be one explanation of that pre-post intervention result that I just showed. You know, we started the intervention here at week 10, and then it just immediately shot up and then kept going in the upward direction, which is the desired direction. But the next slide shows another explanation that could have happened, right? So you know, if you look at this time chart and you go back far enough, the data was already moving in the desired direction. You did the intervention, but it just kept going the way that it was going. So maybe it was already moving in that direction anyway, and your intervention didn't actually make any difference. Or there could be yet another explanation, which is that this is just kind of the nature of this system or process. It is just kind of a chaotic thing. It's seasonal. It just goes up and down. But if you see a lot of zigzagging, you know, what's going on there? And so I just wanted to show those three examples to kind of make the point of why we're trying to get away from pre and post and really look at things over time through the context of where they started, what the baseline was, and where you need them to go to achieve the goal that we've talked about on your key driver diagram and your theory of change. So next slide. So on this page, there are the three statistical rules that are the only things you need to know to be, a data whiz. You guys have heard me say from the beginning that I feel like the data wonks have been trying to like confuse us all and intimidate us with data and, you know, tell us that we need these big data analysts. Well, you really don't. You need these three rules on the screen that are going to come up any second. And they are three simple things. So one is called a shift. They're in the top left. And you can identify a shift on a run chart when you see at least 6 points, data points above your baseline. That line that goes across the run chart is your baseline. That's where you're starting, your median of your current system. So if you see at least 6 points above or below your line and you have done something, that's the other significant thing. You have to actually have a theory about what you have done to change this system. Then what you have there is a statistically significant shift in your system. And when you have that, you get to move your baseline, which means you have actually made an improvement. Not just, oh, we feel good and we feel like we felt really good about what we did, but we actually can see the results here. The next one is called a trend. And it might not be, you might not get to move your baseline yet, but if you see a trend, which is 6 consecutive points all going up or down, there's something going on there and we need to dig deeper. Then the third one, you don't see very often, but it's called a zigzag. And that's what, when I said it just goes up and down. And that means that that system is really chaotic and we need to dig in again and see what else is going on. What it usually means is that you have 2 processes that you're measuring at the same time and they need to be broken apart. So if you could imagine a lot of examples where we have that zigzag, when we pull it apart, it might be like the morning shift and the evening shift, right? And so it's just, those are actually different systems and different processes. They shouldn't be on the same chart, but we wouldn't know that unless we, kind of dug in and looked at it. So in blue is what, I've got this book called Understanding Variation, and it's that, they get into all the economists that came up with these rules, and it's just so dense. But this is kind of like the crux of what they're saying. The likelihood, according to probability theory, that you would see these 3 patterns occur without a change in the system is statistically very small. So in normal people speak, if you see one of these 3 things on a chart, something important is going on. You don't need a data analyst. You don't need any of the things. You just need to be able to identify these things and then know that you get to recalculate and move your baseline and tell everyone that you have changed your system. So let me pause there. We're going to get into I have a couple just examples to kind of see how comfortable we are with that very crash course in statistics. You guys can leave here today and say, I learned statistics today. But are there any questions? Has anybody seen that before or heard about these 3 simple rules? Or I don't know, what resonates, what seems, I don't know. Tell me share some thoughts with me.
I think for me, I think I asked this before in a smaller session, but like you might see a run, a trend in one direction or down, or a shift. But then the question is, did that shift or that trend happen because of the intervention we did, or did it happen because of something else that occurred at the same time? It's just always a question I have.
Yeah, I mean, so what kind of these laws of variation and the theory behind all this stuff says is, if you have a solid run chart and you have a solid baseline that's at least 12 weeks or at least 12 data points is what we usually want. That is going to tell you what your system is doing naturally. Ideally, you want to get this before you start testing and perturbing the system, right? So that you're not tampering with it. But if you have a baseline and then you start to see these significant shifts, trends, zigzags, it's statistically improbable that it is not what and also, as I said, it's that you see one of these rules and that you did something at the same time. So you have a theory that something that you did resulted in that. If you didn't do anything, then we're not going to claim that you can't really claim that there was a shift or a trend. But if you did something, if you tested a little bit, and there is one of these 3 rules, then it's statistically improbable that it just happened on its own. And I would say in the social sector, especially, I mean, again, you guys have heard me say before, that's the best information we've got. It's just going to have to be good enough. But I think that's a great question, Victor. Thank you. Anybody else have any thoughts or reflections? If not, we can, hopefully my throat can make it through this. Just had a couple other examples on the next 2 slides. And Courtney, were we going to try to do a poll?
Yep, poll ready when you are. So let me know Want me to open it up for you? And the slide is up with the question you want to ask as well.
Sure. So this is just another example. And the question is, do we see any of our 3 rules on this chart? And then you can throw up the poll. Oh,
it's live. So you've
well,
got plenty of time. Oh, sorry.
I messed you up, Courtney, because, okay, we'll wait and do the poll for the next one.
Okay.
Because this one needed a 4th choice, which was that we don't see any of the rules.
Ah, okay.
Sorry. So as you'll see here, there are some points where it starts to go up, you know, even in between 113 and 115, it starts to go up, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points up, but then it drops down. And so if you've only got 5 and then you go below the or above the line, you start over. So you could be really close to having a shift, but then if it plummets, you just got to start all over. We don't have any statistical significance. Okay, so that was a softball to get us ready for the next one, where we're all going to participate in the poll. Do we see any of the 3 rules on this chart? And it might be too much trouble for the poll. If it is, Courtney, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think I may have closed it a little too early, but that's okay.
Nope, that's my bad. Does anybody want to chime in? I think we were trying not to do the chat or mute thing, but
I think the chat.
We're improvising. Chat,
Yeah.
please.
Yes.
We've got a shift. We've got some answers. Thanks, Victor, Ashley, Chandra. Thanks, guys. Yes, we do have a shift. And this is what we want to see on your projects. We want to get to the point where we can throw a pizza party. I was joking with one of the other teams about how, you know, a pizza party isn't probably the way that we would celebrate the important work or shifts that you guys are all doing in these projects, but you get the point. So I just wanted to share this to show you all vegan pizza, no dairy. Yes, indeed. We don't want any upset stomachs. That these charts, while they might look a little intimidating, they're really, really not. They're really simple. And it's simple data that changes systems and shows you if you've changed a system. And so between the learnings from the little bets and all of the documentation that you will have from this RLI experience, you know, this will be the bookend to the testament of the work that you've done and the learnings that you have documented. And it will show the impact that you have been able to make. We might not have a shift by the end of this experience in November, but you keep going, right? The work's not going to stop in November. And so, you know, it might be a few more months until you get that shift, but the goal is to achieve that shift and to have a really good communication tool to show people what you achieved. Any other questions? Sorry, my voice is giving out on me. All right, well, if all hearts and minds are at peace with run charts, I will kick it back over to Courtney.
All right, thank you so much, Melissa, and apologies for the wonkiness with some of the sharing and poll features. Lots of learning today on Zoom, so we appreciate you guys waiting and being patient and listening and and learning with us, alongside us, which is what today has been all about. And I hope you guys have gained so many wonderful insights with our panel, with our amazing connection activity, with our summary around data and where we are now and how to disrupt analysis paralysis and perfection related to data and how we approach it, as well as updating our pitches. So, and testing our little bits lastly. So lots of good info today, lots of good time spent in community. And I hope you felt that, and I hope you gained some new insights as you continue to test your bets. We're at our closing for today. And so wanted to elevate a few things before we end our time today around how you guys will spend your time post-convening with work. And so a couple of things, we didn't want to bog our teams down between now and convening 7 with a lot of directives around work in between this convening, because this is really a time to drill down on testing. We want you guys to really take that template, dig into what you want to be true for your communities, your target populations, using all the tools that you have acquired thus far to inform this testing phase of your little bit. So at the very top, a way you can dive into that is submitting your funding applications by the August deadline of August 19th. If you guys feel like your teams are ready to submit those applications, we have one team submit an application already. And so people are rocking and rolling with those funding applications. All that information can be found in the team deliverables folder, if I'm not mistaken. You can go back and revisit those processes, those resources, those documents. And if you have any questions about that, certainly elevate that to me. Continue considering what you guys have learned in your team learning communities, your TLCs. You guys have probably heard me talk about this with you, myself or Seth, in one iteration or the other. So you guys have had expert coaches come in to come into your team meetings. You've worked with researchers who have looked at other communities to see how they might be approaching similar little bits and bringing that information back to you. So there's several pathways that teams can engage in related to our team learning communities. So continue capturing your reflections about those communities. And if you want to explore more pathways, make sure you capture that in the link provided here, which I'll share at the end of our time in a summary email as well, so you have that. Continue to work on the data you've been collecting with your coach, data coach Melissa, in the spreadsheet that she's provided for you. We would love for you guys to have that information entered into that by the 29th of August. And she will be working with you guys between now and next convening on points related to data. And then lastly, for post-convening work, we just want you to work on testing. Test. We want you to try to test with at least 3 people using the template we provided earlier in our program with Seth. So use that template to your advantage. Really hone in on those questions: the who, the what, the why, the where, the abandon, the act. Those are all great starting points if you haven't gotten to a place where you want to test yet. And if you have started testing, those are great ways to reorient to alignment for your bets as you see that written out in real time in your template. As always, you can upload any deliverables related to what you might engage with the template with into the team deliverables folder. So again, making copies of the template provided by us for convening 6, uploading that to your specific folder so you have access to it, and then continuing to upload that information in the template, which will be appear in the team deliverables folder if you do those steps. And lastly, just to close us out, wanted to elevate a few opportunities and reminders to you guys. Upcoming convening 7 is upcoming September 7th. We will be talking about how to continue to improve and see what's working in this convening on convening 7. We'll have Janine Chin as our facilitator for this time. She has some really cool stuff in planned for you guys. So get your minds primed between now and then for another amazing convening. That's convening 7. Sorry, that's an error there. But we definitely want you guys to lean into our invitation to provide gifts to those who help you with your testing. So if you would like to request any type of gift cards for those folks, there'll be a link here, which I will then share with you in a summary. There's also an opportunity to join a trauma-informed workplace workshop on August 16th that I'll pass along with registration information, who's hosting that. So if you have time outside of your normal work or your work with RLI and you'd like to engage in some of these activities, please feel free to do so. And again, I'll be including links for those. Lastly, our Youth Resilience Boot Camp is coming up, and that's an ROI sponsored event. We will host that August 23rd through August 26th. And again, we'll share that information in our summary if you'd like to know more, if you'd like to share it with your partners, specifically our school communities. If you have camps that you coordinate with over the summer or have organizations outside of the school that you partner with that you like to share, or even the school community, if you guys are back in session, feel free to share that information with our partners and constituents so we can have a well-attended event and also just have you start this resilience work alongside us early, right? So I think that'll be an excellent opportunity for our community, our youth in our community. And our winner circle, dun, 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 dun. Who will win today? Let me get, since I'm sharing my screen, I'm working on my wheel on my phone, and I am going to select those names now. Give me a moment to hit it. Dun, 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 dun. Give me 1 second. And the winner is, oh man, taking a second today. Bear with me. Our winner today is Marcus from the Eastern Star team. Woohoo! Thank you for participating in today's raffle, Marcus. All of you actually participated, but Marcus was our winner from those who are actually on our call today. And so we will be sharing you some gifts, Marcus, for your winnings today. And also for you guys who have participated with our team learner communities, which is virtually everybody, you also will be getting a small token of appreciation for participating with TLCs, because TLCs is a new feature in our program that we're doing in our weekly meetings. So it doesn't really feel like an extra thing, but it's just a way to give you guys extra support. So we want to shout you out and show some gratitude for you guys participating in those communities so graciously. And as I close out today, I will send you guys a summary of all the things I outlined in our closing. And as always, we're at 2:59, so want to be mindful of time, but also want to give opportunities for you guys to share some feedback. You can scan the screen on with your phone, on your camera. Oh, excuse me, sorry, this is one of those moments, y'all. And I've been signed out, but that's okay. We're gonna keep moving. So I give you guys a second once this loads to take a picture of the QR code so you can do the survey to tell us how you like today's convening. Give us any feedback, ways we can improve, because we constantly want to hear your feedback around our convenings. Because in the last feedback we heard, we want more breakouts with teams. We want breakouts earlier. We want, this thing, and we've tried very hard to implement those changes in real time so you guys can see those. So we are committed to applying your feedback in the best possible ways we can, because this program is all yours and we want to make it impactful for you. So take a moment to scan that QR code if you haven't already. Give you a few more seconds here. And then lastly, we have our weekly breakout time. This marks the end of our time together today. However, we also offer teams optional breakout time to circle up before the end of our meeting. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to open up breakout rooms again. And if you guys want to take a few minutes to circle back with your teams, you can do that now. And if you don't want to circle back with your team before we close out today, this is where we leave you. And I'll turn it back over to Chandra for a brief salutation.
I just want to say how much we appreciate and acknowledge all of you for the work that you're doing, that you show up every month, that you're doing the work in between. And we are so excited for you to test your little bets. ROI And the coaches, the facilitators, myself, we are all here to support you. So you can reach out to Seth, to Courtney, to any of us, if we can help you in any way. But we are here, we're with you, we're in the trenches, and we just want to acknowledge you and to encourage you to keep up the good work. So Courtney, anything else before we say adieu?
That's it. You said it perfectly. The rooms are open. Feel free to join. If not,
awesome. See you guys
enjoy the
soon.
rest of your day.
Courtney or anyone, I have a question about the I think we completely went the wrong direction on our the thing we filled out today in the template that we filled out today.
Mhm.
And,